Always have makanina. Even your pillows. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Liam. I'm 12 years old and I'm in grade 6. Next slide, please. This is my presentation. It's about the 100 Years' War. So let's begin with this 100 Years' War. Next slide, please. This is the introduction. So we're going to be talking about what is 100 Years' War. So 100 Years' War is a conflict between England and France. It lasted 116 years between 1337 and 1453. It was caused by the death of King Charles IV of France. When he died, they realized that he had no male heir. The King Edward III of England thought he claimed the French throne, but the French declined it and picked Philip VI, igniting the war in 1337. Next slide, please. There were 62 major wars in total, and from those 62, 32 were won by France, 27 won by England, and 3 were indecisive. The 3 undecided were La Roche-Derrien, Tournai, and Saint Omer. We're going to be talking about the 5 major ones. And first off is the English wins. In 1346, the Battle of Crecy happened. This is England's first major victory, and this is all because of their bowmen. 10 years later was the Battle of Poitiers. This is important as the English kidnapped the King of France at the time, King John II. 4 years later, this caused the Treaty of Bretigny, which simply England would want more land from France. England would give back King John. France would have to pay a huge ransom, and Edward III said he wouldn't get the French throne. But that wasn't the end. This was only a temporary peace. And finally, Agincourt in 1415, led by Henry V. He and his English army were small, while the French army was huge. It was massive, you could say. And surprisingly to everyone, the English won. And because of the muddy terrain and their longbowmen. Next slide, please. Next off, the French win. First off, it's the Siege of Orleans, which lasted between 1428 and 1429. This is important as this is the first time the French thought things were going up for them, as a 17-year-old named Joan of Arc, from divine guidance, decided to join the war, and the Siege of Orleans was a French victory. And then 1453, the final battle was in Castilian. The Battle of Castilian had the French win from their leading Charles VII and their heavy artillery. Next, please. And here are the 6 most important people in the war. So, first off is this guy. This is King Edward III. He was crowned king in 1327 and joined the war immediately in 1337. He's major for his wins in Sluis and Crecy. He died after a 50-year span in 1337. Next off is this guy's son. This guy, Edward of Woodstock, or the Black Prince. He wasn't king, but he was the eldest kid for this guy and his wife. I think 13 kids, which is surprising. He got his nickname the Black Prince from his black armor and his military campaigns. But he didn't become king as he died from a chronic illness. And finally, from England, Henry V. This guy over here was crowned in 1413, and 2 years later, in the Agincourt campaign he successfully won the Battle of Agincourt, and 5 years later, in the Treaty of Troyes, was told to be the next French heir, but he died due to an illness 2 years later. Next, France. Okay, these are the last three. First off is Charles V. Look at this slide. Okay. Charles V was crowned king in 1340 and 1364. And he was nicknamed the Wise from him avoiding big battles and rebuilding France. He died in 1380. And then this girl, her name is Joan of Arc. We mentioned her in the Siege of Orleans, and she was successful in the Siege of Orleans, like I said. But 1 year later, in the Siege of Compiègne, she was kidnapped by Burgundians. I forgot if that's correct. She was tried for heresy and burned at the stake at the age of 19. And finally, this guy. You think it's Vladimir Putin? No, it was Charles VII. Charles VII was crowned king in 1422, but wasn't officially told as king, as no one really recognized him as, until Joan of Arc came and officially crowned this guy king. From the 1440s to 1453, this guy pushed the English out of France, and that was a key reason why they won. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. The history of the 100 Years' War. There's 3 parts: beginning, middle, and end. Let's talk about them. At the beginning, English had a really good start and had wins in Sluys, Crécy, and Poitiers, etc. And the French didn't really have a good start as they lost a lot of land, and the beginning ended in 1360 from the Treaty of Rantigny. And here's the middle. In the middle, King Charles V helped the French get back up, and the English started to fail from stuff like the 1381 Peasant Revolution and their horrible King Richard II. And by 1415, the English started to bounce back, but it was a bit too late as they were going up. Right. Okay, the Battle of Agincourt. And this ended in 1420 in the Treaty of Troyes. Okay, finally the end. At the end, the Siege of Orleans happened. France went off and pushed England out. Okay, and yeah, this is what England was before the war, and this area, yeah, France was stronger before, rebuilding their country and centralizing power. And this is also the start of French nationalization. And this was because back then, France, all the French people there thought of them as their regions. Because any region, they developed those as that region. But now, they thought themselves as French. On the other hand, England had a blow down and lost almost all their French land except here, which is Calais. Well, England, 2 years later, had the War of Roses, which lasted 30 years, and this was really bad as these were 2 royal families, Lancaster and York, and this was going to be an issue as this was a distraction from rebuilding England. But Calais was taken away in 1558, and when England and France, when it became a republic in 1801, England just completely scrapped all of the French throne thing. But now, they're political allies. Thank you for listening, guys.